At exactly 2:17 a.m., Camera 47 showed a traffic accident on a highway that did not exist. I remember staring at the monitor wall inside the control center while rain hammered against the reinforced windows overlooking miles of interstate infrastructure. Hundreds of traffic feeds filled the screens. Overpasses, exit ramps, toll roads. Empty stretches of asphalt disappear into darkness. Then there was Camera 47. According to the system database, Camera 47 monitored a section of Highway 12 near mile marker 83. The problem was simple. Highway 12 ended 40 miles before mile marker 83. That road didn't exist. Neither did the camera. Yet the live feed remained active. A lonely four-lane highway stretched through darkness beneath an overcast sky. No landmarks. No signs. No surrounding infrastructure. Just asphalt vanishing toward the horizon. Then the headlights appeared. A sedan traveling eastbound. The vehicle crossed the screen. Moments later, another car entered from the opposite direction. Neither driver slowed. Neither changed lanes. The collision happened at full speed. Metal twisted. The glass exploded. The wreckage rolled across the empty highway. I reached for the emergency dispatch phone automatically. Then I noticed something. The timestamp is embedded in the camera feed. Tomorrow. The accident hadn't happened yet. The control center radio crackled softly. Static filled the room. Then a voice emerged. My voice.
Come.
Exhausted. Terrified. Ryan, stop watching Camera 47. Every monitor inside the operations center flickered. The traffic feed has been refreshed. The crash scene vanished. A new message appeared across the bottom of the screen. Observer detected. 3 nights earlier. My name is Ryan Mercer, and by the time I accepted the overnight position at the State Traffic Operations Center, I had spent nearly 18 months trying to rebuild a career that ended in a single bad decision. Before arriving at the control center, I worked as a transportation systems coordinator responsible for monitoring highway incidents throughout 3 counties. Most nights involved routine congestion reports, disabled vehicles, and weather-related accidents. Then one stormy evening, I delayed closing a stretch of interstate because traffic models suggested conditions would improve. They didn't. A chain reaction collision involving dozens of vehicles followed less than an hour later. Investigators ultimately concluded that multiple factors contributed to the disaster. Weather forecasting errors, driver behavior, poor visibility. Yet none of that mattered much to me. Every official report spread responsibility across departments. Every memory is concentrated in one place. By the following year, I found myself accepting night shift contracts in facilities where nobody knew my history. The Traffic Operations Center seemed perfect. Endless rows of monitors. Predictable procedures. Quiet overnight shifts spent watching roads instead of making decisions. The facility sat outside the city on a low hill overlooking miles of interstate infrastructure. During daylight, the building looked ordinary. Concrete walls. Communications towers. Satellite equipment. At night, however, the place felt different. Hundreds of live traffic feeds illuminated the dark operations floor while highways glowed like veins of light stretching across the landscape. Operators monitored accidents, weather conditions, construction zones, and emergency traffic 24 hours a day. Most shifts involved routine observation. Watching. Logging. Reporting. The work felt strangely detached from reality. Entire lives passed through the cameras without anyone inside the control center ever meeting the people involved. After midnight, when traffic thinned and the roads emptied, the monitors became hypnotic. Endless streams of asphalt disappearing into darkness. Thousands of miles of roadway reduced to silent moving images. The supervisor responsible for training me was a veteran systems manager named Greg Holloway. Most of the orientation focused on ordinary procedures. Incident reporting, camera controls, emergency dispatch coordination. Then Greg handed me a thin binder labeled Camera 47 Protocols. The title sounded harmless enough. The contents did not. Never compare Camera 47 footage with official highway maps. Do not archive footage generated after 2 a.m. If Camera 47 displays an incident, do not attempt to verify the location. Most unusual of all was the final instruction printed across an entire page. If Camera 47 displays a road unfamiliar to you, stop observing immediately. Naturally, I assumed the rules existed because old monitoring systems often attract strange folklore. Every facility develops stories around malfunctioning equipment. Greg didn't seem eager to discuss the details anyway. Whenever I asked about Camera 47, he redirected the conversation toward traffic management procedures or maintenance schedules. Only once did he hesitate. We were reviewing the monitoring network when I noticed Camera 47 listed separately from every other traffic feed in the database. No roadway designation. No geographic coordinates. Just an active status icon and a warning marker embedded throughout the system. Greg stared at the screen for several seconds before speaking. That camera generates more reports than every other feed combined, he said quietly. Something about the wording bothered me immediately. Not errors. Not malfunctions. Reports. The distinction felt deliberate. Before I could ask another question, he closed the database and moved on to another topic. My first night alone passed quietly enough. Rain swept across the interstate while traffic volume dropped steadily after midnight. Most of my shift involved reviewing archived incident reports and monitoring weather conditions. Around 1 a.m., I started reading historical records left behind by previous operators. Most documented ordinary events. Vehicle collisions. Road closures. Equipment failures. Then I found a report dated almost 2 years earlier. According to the file, Camera 47 captured a fatal accident involving 3 vehicles on a section of highway that did not exist on any state transportation map. Emergency services found nothing. No crash scene. No roadway. No explanation. Attached to the report was a handwritten note added later in blue ink. Don't focus on where the road goes. Focus on why it eventually shows you. I remember reading the sentence twice. Then, glancing toward the monitor wall. For just a second, I thought Camera 47 was activated, and displayed a stretch of highway I had never seen before. For the first few nights, the instructions surrounding Camera 47 felt exactly like the kind of superstition that develops around aging infrastructure. Every control center has its stories. Dispatchers talk about radio frequencies that seem cursed. Maintenance crews swear certain sensors fail on the same dates every year. Traffic operators spend enough nights staring at monitors that eventually every unexplained image becomes part of workplace folklore. The Traffic Operations Center seemed no different. My shifts settled into a predictable rhythm. Monitor traffic volume. Track weather systems. Coordinate incident responses. Review highway cameras. Outside, rainstorms drifted across the interstate while headlights flowed through the darkness in steady streams. Inside, the operations floor glowed beneath hundreds of screens. After midnight, when traffic thinned and entire highways emptied, The facility felt strangely detached from the rest of the world. The roads continued moving while time inside the center seemed to slow. The camera network quickly became familiar. 312 active traffic feeds covered the state transportation system. Every camera possessed geographic coordinates, maintenance histories, and roadway assignments. Every camera except camera 47. According to the database, the feed existed. The equipment did not. No installation records. No maintenance reports. No physical location. Yet the camera remained active every night. At first, I assumed it represented some forgotten legacy system left behind during older network upgrades. The problem was simple. The footage didn't match any known highway. Every time camera 47 was activated, it displayed roads absent from transportation maps, interchanges connecting to non-existent routes, exit signs referencing towns that didn't exist, long stretches of empty highway vanishing into landscapes I couldn't identify. Curious, I began reviewing archived footage. Most recordings lasted only a few minutes. Everyone ended the same way. The road eventually disappeared into darkness before the feed terminated automatically. The first genuinely unusual event occurred during my fourth overnight shift. Around 2:04 a.m., camera 47 activated without warning. The feed displayed a 4-lane highway cutting through rolling hills beneath an overcast sky. Nothing about the image seemed remarkable until I noticed the traffic. 3 vehicles traveled eastbound. A pickup truck, a delivery van, a black sedan. Curious, I opened archived traffic records. The camera immediately displayed a warning message. Archived comparisons discouraged. I ignored it. The previous night's footage loaded. The same 3 vehicles appeared. Same highway. Same positions. Same movement. Then I checked another recording. And another. The vehicles appeared repeatedly across dozens of archived feeds. Always traveling eastbound. Always maintaining identical spacing. Nothing terrible happened immediately afterward. In fact, the following day felt unusually normal. Traffic systems behaved perfectly. Weather forecasts remained accurate. Communications networks experienced no anomalies. By sunset, I had almost convinced myself the repeated footage resulted from a database error. Monitoring systems recycle old video constantly. Corrupted archives. Storage failures. Human beings notice patterns where none exist. Every rational explanation sounded preferable to the alternatives. Looking back, that false confidence probably caused more damage than the footage itself. If something obvious had happened immediately, I might have stopped investigating. Instead, the silence encouraged me to continue. The first warning sign appeared during my next shift. I arrived shortly before midnight and discovered an incident report waiting inside the archive system. The document carried my employee identification number, my digital signature. According to the timestamp, I submitted it 11 days earlier. The problem was simple. I hadn't worked at the facility 11 days earlier. Yet the report described current traffic conditions perfectly. Weather systems, traffic density, equipment status. Everything matched reality. Most disturbing was the final observation attached to the bottom of the file. Camera 47 has started displaying familiar routes. I stared at the sentence for nearly a minute, then checked the archive. The report existed in multiple backups, multiple databases, multiple systems. As far as the operations center was concerned, I had written it. Around 2:17 a.m., the control center radio activated unexpectedly. Static crackled softly through the speaker mounted above the operations desk. Then a voice emerged. My voice. Professional. Exhausted. Ryan, stop comparing the roads. The transmission lasted less than 3 seconds. No recording appeared afterward. No communication log existed. Nothing. Yet before I could process what I had heard, camera 47 activated again. The familiar highway appeared on the screen. The pickup truck remained visible. The delivery van remained visible. The black sedan remained visible. Then a fourth vehicle entered the frame. A silver SUV. According to the telemetry data attached to the feed, it had not approached from another road. It had simply appeared. And the license plate matched my car. The rule I broke wasn't dramatic. I didn't tamper with the camera network. I didn't alter incident records. I didn't leave the control center searching for a highway that shouldn't exist. Instead, I violated a rule that felt strangely specific. Never compare camera 47 footage with official highway maps. The instructions seemed ridiculous. Traffic management depended on maps. If a camera displayed a roadway, identifying the location was the most natural response imaginable. So when the silver SUV carrying my license plate appeared inside the feed, curiosity overpowered caution. I opened the state mapping database and began tracing the route displayed on camera 47. At first, the highway resembled several real roadways stitched together imperfectly. A familiar overpass connected to an unfamiliar interchange. Known landmarks appeared in impossible locations. Exit numbers followed no recognizable sequence. The deeper I looked, the stranger the geometry became. Entire sections of roadway connected places that should have been hundreds of miles apart. Yet despite the impossibilities, the route felt disturbingly familiar. Not because I recognized the road. Because I recognized where it seemed to be leading. Toward my apartment. The realization arrived gradually. Exit signs carried the names of neighborhoods near the city where I lived. Service roads resembled routes I drove regularly. Intersections mirrored parts of my daily commute. The similarities were never exact. More like a dream, reconstructing a familiar place from memory. Curious, I overlaid the camera feed against real transportation maps. The software immediately generated a warning. Geographic conflict detected. I ignored it. The route continued unfolding across the display. Mile after mile. Interchange after interchange. Until eventually the impossible highway reached a destination marker. The label attached to the exit made my stomach tighten. Mercer Residential District. No such district existed anywhere in the state. Nothing terrible happened immediately afterward. In fact, the next 24 hours felt unusually normal. Traffic systems behaved perfectly. Weather conditions remained predictable. No strange radio transmissions emerged from the communications network. By the following evening, I had almost convinced myself the mapping anomalies resulted from database corruption. Geographic information systems are complicated. Old infrastructure data creates strange errors. Human beings notice connections where none exist. Every rational explanation sounded preferable to the alternatives. Looking back, that false confidence probably caused more damage than the comparison itself. If something obvious had happened immediately, I might have stopped investigating. Instead, the silence encouraged me to continue. The first warning sign appeared during my next shift. I arrived shortly before midnight and discovered a completed incident report waiting inside the archive system. The document described a traffic collision involving a silver SUV near mile marker 214. According to the report, I personally reviewed the incident footage and forwarded emergency notifications. The problem was simple. The collision hadn't happened yet. More disturbing was the attached photograph. The image showed the damaged vehicle resting against a highway barrier. Rain covered the windshield. Emergency lights reflected across twisted metal. The license plate remained visible. My license plate. I stared at the photograph for nearly a minute. Then checked the timestamp. Tomorrow. The accident was scheduled to occur tomorrow. Around 2:17 a.m., the control center radio activated again. Static hissed softly through the operations floor. Then a voice emerged. My voice. Not frightened. Not urgent. Exhausted. Ryan, stop comparing the roads. The transmission lasted less than 3 seconds. No recording appeared afterward. No communication log existed. Nothing. Yet before I could process what I had heard, camera 47 activated again. The familiar highway appeared on the screen. The pickup truck remained visible. The delivery van remained visible. The black sedan remained visible. Then a fourth vehicle entered the frame. A silver SUV. According to the telemetry data attached to the feed, it had not approached from another road. It had simply appeared. And the license plate matched my car. The rule I broke wasn't dramatic. I didn't tamper with the camera network. I didn't alter incident records. I didn't leave the control center searching for a highway that shouldn't exist. Instead, I violated a rule that felt strangely specific. Never compare camera 47 footage with official highway maps. The instructions seemed ridiculous. Traffic management depended on maps. If a camera displayed a roadway, identifying the location was the most natural response imaginable. So when the silver SUV carrying my license plate appeared inside the feed, curiosity overpowered caution. I opened the state mapping database and began tracing the route displayed on camera 47. At first, the highway resembled several real roadways stitched together imperfectly. A familiar overpass connected to an unfamiliar interchange. Known landmarks appeared in impossible locations. Exit numbers followed no recognizable sequence. The deeper I looked, the stranger the geometry became. Entire sections of roadway connected places that should have been hundreds of miles apart. Yet despite the impossibilities, the route felt disturbingly familiar. Not because I recognized the road. Because I recognized where it seemed to be leading. Toward my apartment. The realization arrived gradually. Exit signs carried the names of neighborhoods near the city where I lived. Service roads resembled routes I drove regularly. Intersections mirrored parts of my daily commute. The similarities were never exact. More like a dream, reconstructing a familiar place from memory. Curious, I overlaid the camera feed against real transportation maps. The software immediately generated a warning. Geographic conflict detected. I ignored it. The route continued unfolding across the display. Mile after mile. Interchange after interchange. Until eventually the impossible highway reached a destination marker. The label attached to the exit made my stomach tighten. Mercer Residential District. No such district existed anywhere in the state. Nothing terrible happened immediately afterward. In fact, the next 24 hours felt unusually normal. Traffic systems behaved perfectly. Weather conditions remained predictable. No strange radio transmissions emerged from the communications network. By the following evening, I had almost convinced myself the mapping anomalies resulted from database corruption. Geographic information systems are complicated. Old infrastructure data creates strange errors. Human beings notice connections where none exist. Every rational explanation sounded preferable to the alternatives. Looking back, that false confidence probably caused more damage than the comparison itself. If something obvious had happened immediately, I might have stopped investigating. Instead, the silence encouraged me to continue. The first warning sign appeared during my next shift. I arrived shortly before midnight and discovered a completed incident report waiting inside the archive system. The document described a traffic collision involving a silver SUV near mile marker 214. According to the report, I personally reviewed the incident footage and forwarded emergency notifications. The problem was simple. The collision hadn't happened yet. More disturbing was the attached photograph. The image showed the damaged vehicle resting against a highway barrier. Rain covered the windshield. Emergency lights reflected across twisted metal. The license plate remained visible. My license plate. I stared at the photograph for nearly a minute. Then checked the timestamp. Tomorrow. The accident was scheduled to occur tomorrow. Around 2:17 a.m., the control center radio activated again. Static hissed softly through the operations floor. Then a voice emerged. My voice. Not frightened. Not urgent. Exhausted. Like someone who hadn't slept in years. Ryan, stop following the route. The transmission paused briefly. Rain rattled against the windows. Traffic cameras flickered across the monitor wall. Then the voice continued. The roads aren't appearing because you're finding them. My chest tightened immediately. The speaker crackled softly. You're finding them because they're appearing. The transmission ended. At that exact moment, Camera 47 activated automatically. The impossible highway appeared again. The silver SUV remained visible. Still traveling eastbound. Still approaching the fictional district named after me. Then the camera angle shifted unexpectedly. For the first time since I began watching the feed, the highway passed beneath an overhead sign. The destination listed beneath the arrow wasn't a city. It wasn't a town. It wasn't a highway designation. It was my full name. And according to the mileage marker beneath it, I was only 7 miles away. I should have stopped watching Camera 47 after seeing my name on the highway sign. Every protocol, every warning, every impossible incident report pointed toward the same conclusion. The feed wasn't something to investigate. It was something to avoid. Yet curiosity has a way of disguising itself as responsibility. Around 2:30 a.m., I reopened the footage and began reviewing it frame by frame. The highway looked ordinary at first glance. Fresh pavement. Reflective lane markings. Standard interstate signage. Yet the details became stranger the longer I watched. Traffic cameras are designed to observe roads. Camera 47 seemed designed to observe destinations. Every sign pointed to something personal. Not public landmarks. Private memories. Neighborhoods connected to my past. Streets carrying family names. Locations that existed emotionally rather than geographically. Then I noticed something worse. The silver SUV wasn't simply traveling along the road. It was following the exact route I had driven earlier that evening while commuting to work. Every turn. Every lane change. Every decision. The camera wasn't predicting movement. It was reconstructing it. When I returned to routine monitoring, reality itself started feeling wrong. Traffic reports began changing while I read them. Incident logs are updated in real time. Archived accident records referenced collisions that hadn't happened yet. Every anomaly seemed minor when viewed individually. Together, they created a disturbing pattern. The system wasn't forecasting future events. It was documenting outcomes before they occurred. Around 1 a.m., a congestion report appeared for Interstate 7. According to the document, a vehicle breakdown would block the center lane near exit 42. 47 minutes later, the breakdown occurred exactly as described. Another report referenced a traffic signal failure scheduled to happen later that morning. The failure happened precisely on time. Every report became reality. Not approximately. Precisely. The archive wasn't making predictions. It was recording completed histories. Then the radios started talking to each other. The first incident occurred shortly after midnight during a routine communications check. An inactive emergency channel was activated unexpectedly. Moments later, another frequency responded. No authorized users occupied either network. Yet the conversation continued. At first, the voices were distorted beneath layers of static. Then I recognized them. Both speakers sounded like me. Not similar. Identical. One version discussed current traffic conditions. The other described incidents are scheduled to occur days later. Listening to the exchange felt like overhearing two versions of myself comparing notes. Neither voice sounded surprised by the conversation. Neither questioned the impossible circumstances. They spoke like co-workers reviewing routine reports. Then one sentence emerged clearly through the interference. Route integration advanced tonight. The other voice paused. Then answered. He compared the maps. The transmission ended immediately afterward. No recording existed. No communication logs existed. Nothing. Yet I remembered every word. The final escalation arrived during a severe thunderstorm. Rain hammered the operations center continuously while lightning illuminated the interstate network beyond the windows. Around 2:17 a.m., every monitor inside the facility refreshed simultaneously. Traffic feeds vanished. Weather systems disappeared. Incident reports collapsed. For several seconds, the entire control center displayed nothing except camera 47. Hundreds of variations of the same highway filled every screen. Different weather. Different traffic. Different destinations. Every road looked familiar and impossible at the same time. Then I noticed something terrifying. Every route eventually led to me. Not metaphorically. Literally. Different roads. Different exits. Different timelines. Every highway terminated at a location carrying my name. My apartment. My childhood home. My previous workplace. Places connected to my life. The roads weren't leading anywhere. They were leading toward someone. Then a new traffic report appeared automatically. Timestamp. Active. Status. Route observation. Subject. Ryan Mercer. I opened it slowly. The report consisted of a single sentence. He finally realized the roads do not connect locations. For several seconds, I stared at the screen. Then a second sentence appeared beneath it. Typed in real time. They connect observers. A third sentence followed immediately afterward. And this time, it wasn't describing me. It was describing a vehicle that had just exited camera 47. According to the report, it was now traveling on a real highway, less than 5 miles from the control center. After the report described a vehicle leaving camera 47 and entering the real highway system, I stopped treating the feed as a malfunction and started treating it as evidence. Every warning hidden inside the camera 47 protocols suddenly felt less like superstition and more like containment. Something had been happening inside the traffic network for decades, and every operator who noticed it left fragments behind. Around 1 a.m., I abandoned the monitor wall and began searching through the oldest records stored inside the operations center. Most personnel relied entirely on digital archives. Few remembered that the facility contained a physical records room beneath the communications wing. According to the building plans, the archive dated back to the original construction of the statewide traffic monitoring network. The access door required a mechanical key stored inside the supervisor's office. Rain hammered the facility while I descended alone into the lower levels. The deeper sections felt ancient. Concrete walls disappeared beneath exposed utility conduits. Emergency lights flickered weakly above narrow corridors. The archive itself resembled a forgotten bunker. Thousands of reports filled rows of steel cabinets stretching into darkness. Dust covered everything. Yet several drawers stood open as though someone had been reviewing the records recently. The earliest documents immediately revealed a pattern. Camera 47 had existed longer than the traffic network itself. According to reports dating back nearly 70 years, operators consistently observed roads that did not exist on any official map. At first, engineers blamed signal interference. Then equipment failures. Later generations blamed software corruption and database anomalies. Yet every investigation reached the same conclusion. The footage was internally consistent. Traffic patterns remained logical. Road geometry followed recognizable rules. Vehicles obeyed speed limits. Weather systems behaved naturally. The roads functioned exactly like real infrastructure. The only problem was that they connected places that could not exist. The deeper I searched, the stranger the history became. Entire committees had been formed to investigate Camera 47. Transportation agencies redesigned mapping systems. Engineers replaced every component associated with the feed. Nothing changed. One transportation analyst summarized the problem in a report from 1974. The roads are not false. The destinations are. The wording unsettled me because it sounded less like a technical finding and more like a warning. Then I found the observer files. Not incident reports. Observer files. The distinction mattered. Each folder documented an operator who became unusually interested in Camera 47. Different decades. Different backgrounds. Same progression. First came curiosity. Then route comparisons. Then future-dated accident reports. Then personal roadway appearances. Eventually, the operator stopped observing the roads and began appearing inside them. Some documented seeing their own vehicles traveling routes they had never driven. Others reported traffic reports describing incidents before they occurred. Every file ended with the same administrative notation. Status updated. Route association confirmed. The phrase appeared repeatedly throughout 70 years of documentation. Not missing. Not terminated. Associated. The wording felt less procedural than ceremonial. The most disturbing discovery waited inside a locked cabinet labeled recovered footage. Hundreds of video recordings filled the shelves. Traffic incidents. Roadway observations. Camera archives. At first, the footage appeared ordinary. Congestion events, highway accidents, weather-related closures. Then patterns emerged. The same vehicles appeared across decades without aging. Drivers followed identical routes through different years. Some recordings referenced future incidents. Others displayed roads connecting locations that should have been separated by hundreds of miles. Eventually, I found a tape carrying my employee identification number. The date stopped me immediately. The recording had been archived 7 years before I was born. My hands shook as I pressed play. Static flickered briefly across the screen. Then the image stabilized. Camera 47. The Impossible Highway. A silver SUV is moving eastbound. My SUV. The recording continued for several minutes before reaching a destination sign. Not a city. Not an exit. My name. The final statement attached to the archive haunted me. Every route eventually becomes personal. The last discovery waited inside a weathered notebook hidden beneath the recordings. The journal belonged to Greg Holloway's grandfather, one of the first traffic operators assigned to the network. The entries described decades of investigations into Camera 47. Signal tracing, infrastructure studies, geographic analysis. Every theory eventually failed. Near the end, the writing became increasingly desperate. Entire sections focused on a single conclusion. According to the journal, Camera 47 wasn't displaying roads. It was displaying associations. Every route represented a connection between an observer and a destination. The more attention an operator gave the feed, the more personal the roads became. Eventually, the system stopped mapping geography entirely. It started mapping awareness. The final page contained a sentence underlined repeatedly in black ink. The roads do not lead somewhere. They lead toward whoever is watching. Attached to the final entry was an active route register. Hundreds of names filled the document. Every operator who had investigated Camera 47. Near the bottom, I found mine. The status field beside it contained only 3 words. Route integration active. After finding my name inside the route register, I stopped thinking about Camera 47 as a traffic camera and started thinking about it as a process. That distinction changed everything. Every observer file described the same progression. Curiosity, comparison, association, integration. Different operators used different terminology, but the pattern remained identical across 70 years of documentation. The moment someone became interested in the roads became interested in them. Future accident reports appeared. Personal destinations emerged. Traffic incidents started carrying familiar names and locations. Eventually, why the operator stopped using the camera to observe the highway, and the highway started using the camera to observe the operator. Sitting alone in the archive beneath the operations center, I realized something even worse. None of the previous operators had solved the mystery. They had only documented stages of it. Every investigation ended abruptly. Every journal stopped mid-thought. Every observer file concluded with administrative language that felt less like record-keeping and more like assimilation. I created my own rules that night. Never compare Camera 47 with real-world maps. Never open an accident report involving my vehicle. Never follow a route displayed after 2 a.m. Never review archived footage carrying my name. Most importantly, never acknowledge a destination that references my personal life. The final rule emerged naturally from the observer files. Every operator who became fully associated eventually encountered a route leading somewhere emotionally significant. Childhood homes, former workplaces, hospitals, family properties, places carrying personal meaning. The details varied. The outcome remained consistent. Once the operator accepted the destination as real, the process accelerated dramatically. Traffic reports multiplied. Camera anomalies intensified. Route associations expanded. One traffic controller from 1988 summarized the experience in a handwritten note. "At first, the roads connect locations," he wrote. "Then they connect memories." The sentence haunted me because it perfectly described the feeling growing inside the operations center. Camera 47 no longer felt like a malfunctioning traffic feed. It felt aware of significance. For several nights, the rules appeared effective. The future accident reports decreased. Route associations stabilized. Camera 47 was activated less frequently. The temporary calm lasted nearly a week. During that time, I almost convinced myself I had interrupted the integration process somehow. The phenomenon still existed, certainly, but understanding it made it feel manageable. Predictable. Like the weather. Dangerous if ignored. Survivable if respected. Then I noticed the problem. The silence wasn't because the roads had stopped observing me. The silence was because they no longer needed obvious anomalies to attract attention. Instead, the system began altering ordinary traffic records. Maintenance schedules referenced exits that didn't exist. Congestion reports listed impossible mile markers. Highway closures appeared for roads never built. The camera no longer needed dramatic incidents. It was embedding itself into the transportation network. The future reports became personal again after that. Not threatening. Intimate. The distinction mattered. Around 2:17 a.m., an accident summary appeared automatically inside the archive system. The document carried my employee identification number and a timestamp dated 5 months into the future. Most of the report described ordinary traffic conditions. Weather. Vehicle counts. Road surface data. Then I reached the final page. The location section contained details that no traffic network should have possessed. The apartment where I grew up. The route I drove after my father's funeral. The intersection where my previous career effectively ended. Every memory appeared cataloged like transportation infrastructure. The report didn't describe emotions. It described routes, coordinates, connections, as though the system viewed personal experiences the same way it viewed highways. The final rule emerged during a traffic update that never officially existed. At exactly 2:17 a.m., every monitor inside the operations center refreshed simultaneously. Traffic feeds vanished. Weather systems disappeared. Incident reports collapsed. In their place appeared a single interface labeled Active Route Network. Hundreds of entries filled the screen. Some belonged to operators from the observer files. Others carried names of drivers, dispatchers, engineers, and controllers listed throughout decades of transportation records. Every entry included a status designation: unassociated, observed, linked, integrated. Then I found mine. Ryan Mercer. Initial observation. Status: complete. Ryan Mercer. Route correlation. Status: complete. Ryan Mercer. Association confirmed. Status: complete. For several seconds, I stared at the display without moving. Then another entry appeared beneath them. A new one. Created in real time while I watched. Ryan Mercer. Destination integration. Status: in progress. At that exact moment, every Camera 47 archive inside the system opened simultaneously. Not on one monitor. All of them. Thousands of impossible roads filled every screen. And for the first time since arriving at the operations center, I realized the roads were not connecting places, cities, or highways. They were connecting people to the versions of themselves that kept following the route. After realizing the roads connected people to versions of themselves rather than locations, I stopped believing Camera 47 was showing transportation infrastructure at all. The highways were only the language it used. That distinction changed everything. For weeks, I had assumed the roads themselves were the anomaly. The impossible exists. The non-existent mile markers. The destinations carry personal significance. Yet as I stared at thousands of routes filling every monitor inside the operations center, a horrifying pattern emerged. The roads changed constantly. The destinations changed constantly. The observers did not. Every archive, every accident report, every route association file revolved around the same thing. Awareness. The system wasn't mapping geography. It was mapping attention. Every person who became interested in Camera 47 eventually appeared inside its network. The roads weren't leading anywhere. They were organizing observers into destinations. Then the transportation records changed. Not gradually. Instantly. Every employee file inside the traffic network is refreshed simultaneously. Work histories expanded. Performance evaluations multiplied. Future assignments appeared years ahead of schedule. According to the database, I had worked at the operations center for 31 years. Retirement paperwork existed. Transfer requests existed. Psychological evaluations existed. Future supervisors had already reviewed incidents I hadn't experienced yet. The system wasn't predicting my future anymore. It was documenting a version of reality where I never left the network. A version where route integration is eventually completed. The radios were activated next. Not one channel. All of them. Emergency dispatch frequencies. Maintenance networks. Highway patrol communications. Traffic management systems. Every speaker inside the facility erupted with overlapping transmissions. At first, the voices sounded ordinary. Accident reports. Weather updates. Lane closure requests. Then I recognized the speakers. Every voice belonged to someone listed inside the route register. Operators spanning 7 decades of transportation history. Some should have been retired. Others should have been dead. Yet they continued discussing routes, destinations, and traffic observations as though their shifts had never ended. Nobody sounded frightened. Nobody sounded trapped. They sounded occupied. Professional. Focused. Like people performing a task that never concluded. The effect was more disturbing than panic could ever have been. Then I found Greg. Or rather, I found a version of Greg. One of the security monitors displayed him standing inside a control center that did not exist on any building blueprint. The room stretched far beyond the dimensions of the actual facility. Rows of monitors disappeared into darkness. Thousands of traffic feeds filled the walls. Different operators occupied different workstations. Different decades. Different uniforms. Different lives. All watching. All the following routes. Greg looked exactly as I remembered. Same tired eyes. Same gray hair. Same traffic center jacket. Yet something felt wrong. Permanent. Like a photograph that had forgotten it was supposed to represent a moment. Then Greg looked directly into the camera. Into me. And slowly shook his head. Not a warning. Not fear. Regret. The gesture unsettled me more than anything else because it suggested he remembered becoming part of the network. The final escalation began at exactly 2:17 a.m. Every Camera 47 archive is refreshed simultaneously. Thousands of roads filled every screen. Different weather. Different vehicles. Different destinations. For several seconds, the feeds displayed ordinary traffic. Then every destination name disappeared. Not deleted. Merged. Every route is updated in real time. Every highway led toward Ryan Mercer. Every exit led toward Ryan Mercer. Every destination became Ryan Mercer. The roads weren't documenting different places. They were documenting different paths toward the same observer. The horrifying scale of the system finally became clear. The route network wasn't a collection of highways. It was a structure built from possibilities. A map made entirely from versions of people who kept following the roads. Then the wall behind the monitor array opened. Not on a screen. In reality. Concrete split apart with a deep mechanical groan. Beyond the opening stretched a highway descending into darkness beneath the facility. Overhead lights illuminated empty lanes disappearing beyond visibility. Traffic signs hung above the roadway. Every sign carried names I recognized. Memories. Regrets. Decisions. Destinations from my own life. At the far end of the highway stood a traffic operations center larger than a city. Thousands of monitors glowed in the darkness. And seated nearest the entrance was another version of me. Older. Exhausted. Wearing a control center uniform faded by decades of use. He looked up slowly. Then held up an accident report. My accident report. The one marked Destination Integration in Progress. The older Ryan's expression darkened. Then he spoke for the first time. You still think the roads are leading somewhere? Every radio inside the facility fell silent. The report in his hands opened by itself. And every monitor throughout the operations center displayed the same new status line. Observer has entered the route. For several seconds, I stood motionless at the entrance to the impossible highway while every monitor in the operations center displayed the same status line. Observer has entered the route. The older version of me remained seated beneath thousands of glowing traffic feeds stretching into darkness. Around him, countless operators occupied workstations disappearing beyond visibility. Different decades. Different uniforms. Different lives. Yet every one of them appeared focused on the same task. Watching roads. Following routes. Logging destinations. The deeper I looked into the vast facility, the more I realized what I was actually seeing. This wasn't a traffic management center. It wasn't even a transportation network. It was the final destination of the process hidden inside Camera 47. Every observer eventually arrived here. Not physically. Conceptually. Their attention became part of the route system they spent years investigating. Then I noticed something hidden inside the traffic feeds. Not the roads. The structure. Every route followed the same pattern. Observation. Association. Integration. Destination. Different signs. Different highways. Different landscapes. Yet the sequence never changed. The roads weren't merely guiding people somewhere. They were finishing them. Every operator file ended because a destination eventually existed. Every route concluded because a final location appeared. The system depended on completion. Certainty. Arrival. Suddenly, I remembered a sentence buried inside Greg Holloway's grandfather's journal. The roads do not lead anywhere. They lead toward whoever is watching. For the first time, I understood what he had actually discovered. The roads didn't trap people. The roads required conclusions. The moment an observer accepted a final destination, the route became permanent. So I refused to arrive. The reaction was immediate. I stepped forward, took the integration report from the older Ryan's hands, and tore it in half. Not symbolically. Literally. Paper scattered across the empty highway. For the first time, uncertainty crossed the older Ryan's face. Around us, the facility trembled. Not violently. Confused. Like a machine encountering an impossible instruction. Thousands of traffic feeds flickered simultaneously. Routes opened and closed without pattern. Destination markers vanished. Highway signs rewrote themselves. The operators seated throughout the impossible control center slowly looked away from their monitors. The system wasn't collapsing because I had damaged a report. It was collapsing because I had an interrupted arrival. Every route depended on a destination. Every observer depended on a conclusion. Without one, the network could not stabilize. The highways changed next. Roads faded into darkness. Interchanges dissolved. Exit ramps became indistinct. Not disappearing. Becoming possibilities again. The older Ryan stared at the torn reports scattered across the pavement. For the first time, he looked exhausted rather than resigned. Suddenly, I understood what he represented. Not a future version of me. A completed version. A finalized destination preserved because the route network required closure. Every operator before me eventually accepted a destination. Accepted a route. Accepted an arrival. The system survived by transforming observers into endpoints. The moment I refused completion, the structure holding those endpoints together began unraveling. The final act felt absurdly simple. I returned to the real operations center and initiated a complete route archive reset. Not a system shutdown. Not a database deletion. A network reconstruction procedure designed to rebuild corrupted traffic records. Thousands of Camera 47 archives disappeared. Route registers erased themselves. Destination records collapsed. One by one, the completed pathways vanished. The system fought back briefly. New routes were generated faster than they could be removed. Future accidents attempted to recreate themselves. Impossible highways tried to reconnect. Yet uncertainty spread faster. Every deleted destination created an unanswered question. Every unanswered question weakened the framework holding the route network together. Then the operations center went silent. Not dark. Silent. The radios stopped. The reports stopped updating. The impossible highway beneath the facility began slipping away like a dream losing coherence after waking. The last thing I saw before the monitors went black was the older Ryan standing alone on an empty stretch of road. He looked toward me one final time. Then gave a small nod. No approval. Not victory. Relief. And the route leading to my destination ended before it could arrive. The official investigation lasted almost a year. According to transportation authorities, the incident involving Camera 47 resulted from decades of corrupted archive data interacting with legacy monitoring software. Engineers reviewed traffic databases, highway mapping systems, surveillance infrastructure. Every anomaly received a technical explanation. Every impossible route became a software artifact. Camera 47 itself was removed from the network shortly afterward. Its designation disappeared from active documentation. Its archives were deleted. Its maintenance history vanished. Nobody mentioned route registers. Nobody referenced future accident reports. Nobody discussed the impossible highway hidden beneath the operations center. As far as the final investigation concluded, Camera 47 had never actually existed. It was merely an administrative error preserved by outdated systems. The explanation sounded absurdly convenient. Yet nobody challenged it. Nobody wanted to. I resigned before the final review was completed. The decision wasn't difficult. For months, I had watched a traffic camera slowly transform roads into observers and destinations into people. Returning to ordinary transportation work felt impossible afterward. I accepted a position managing infrastructure analytics several states away and left within weeks. New city, new apartment, new routines. Distance helped more than I expected. The route reports stopped. The impossible highways disappeared. I no longer woke in the middle of the night expecting accident reports describing roads that shouldn't exist. Gradually, normal life returned. Not completely. Never completely. But enough that entire months passed without thinking about Camera 47 at all. Looking back, that period felt almost peaceful. The unfinished destination remained exactly that. Unfinished. By refusing arrival, I believed I had interrupted whatever process the route network required. Then the maps started arriving. No return address. No postage. No identifying information. Just folded highway maps appearing inside my mailbox every few months. At first, they seemed ordinary. State transportation maps. Construction detours. Interstate updates. Different regions. Different years. Different publishers. Then I noticed the pattern. Every map contained a road that wasn't supposed to exist. Sometimes it appeared as a faint secondary route. Sometimes as a service road. Sometimes as a nearly invisible line crossing empty terrain. Whenever I checked official versions afterward, the road wasn't there. Yet every new map included another one. The roads weren't rebuilding themselves. They were keeping track. The realization arrived nearly 5 years later. I was driving home after a conference during a severe thunderstorm. Rain hammered the windshield while headlights reflected across wet pavement. Traffic was light. The highway is nearly empty. Around 2:17 a.m., my navigation system recalculated unexpectedly. The screen displayed a route I had never seen before. No highway number. No geographic designation. Just a single road extending into darkness beyond the mapped area. For several seconds, I assumed it was a software glitch. Then I noticed the estimated destination. Not a city. Not an address. My name. I pulled onto the shoulder immediately. The route disappeared a moment later. When I restarted the navigation system, nothing unusual remained. No saved destination. No route history. No error logs. Nothing. Yet I remember every detail. Most nights, I wake at exactly 2:17 a.m. without understanding why. Sometimes I hear traffic reports hidden beneath ordinary sounds. Air conditioning units. Passing vehicles. Rain against windows. Every once in a while, usually during long drives at night, I notice something strange. An exit sign that seems unfamiliar. A road appears where no road should exist. A navigation system suggests a route that vanishes before I can follow it. The anomalies never last long enough to prove anything. Yet one detail never changes. The feeling. The certainty. The sense that somewhere beyond the edge of every map, the route network still exists. Waiting. Not for drivers. Not for vehicles. For observers. And during those moments, I always remember the final sentence written inside Greg Holloway's grandfather's journal. The line transportation operators spent 70 years trying unsuccessfully to understand. The roads are not searching for destinations. They are searching for arrivals. Sometimes, late at night, when rain falls hard enough to blur the world beyond my windshield, I wonder whether the network truly disappeared, or whether it simply stopped being mapped. Because every so often, when a navigation screen refreshes unexpectedly, or a highway sign seems unfamiliar for just a second too long, I catch a glimpse of something hidden beneath the route data. A road without a number. A road without a beginning. A road without an end. And each year, it seems a little closer than before.